The spiritual journey starts right where you are. No matter what phase of life you're in, no matter what is going on in your life, what your circumstances are, it starts right where you are in that moment. Okay, and then you just move forward in life with this new understanding, with this new trajectory. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So let's think about, okay, what brings someone to a spiritual awakening, to a pathway where they do shadow work, where they do inner work? Well, a lot of the times it's a tower moment, right? And what does that mean? In the tarot, the tower is the card about foundational changes. It's some kind of big event that happens externally in your life that makes you, like, knocks you down, right? Makes you start questioning your identity, questioning your understanding of the world, your relationships, where you are in your life. And so if we look at that, right, the tower moment, really what it does is it makes people be present. It makes people look at their life and see where they are at that exact moment, right? Because, before maybe they were kind of coasting. They were just like living life on autopilot and they were taking things for granted. And now, because something has changed so foundationally, so essential to your identity and to your day-to-day life, it makes you be like, what's happening? And really pay attention. Okay, so when you're going forward on your spiritual journey, right, you can do like really deep diving spiritual work, but if you want some place to start, just go about your day. You go about your day and make an effort to be present and to observe. Okay, presence and observation are the two first things that will help you figure out your path and where to go and what things that you need to dismantle, what beliefs are holding you back. So like, for example, let's say I wake up and I, brush my teeth and then I go to the kitchen to make myself a cup of coffee. And then I see that the dishes are full in the sink. And so then I get irritated, right? Because I'm like, oh, fuck, the dirty dishes. Okay, well, let's note that. Let's just observe it. I'm irritated at the dirty dishes. Okay. So now, once you observe it, right, start analyzing it. Start thinking about it. Well, why am I upset about that? Well, I don't like having a dirty kitchen. It annoys me because I want it to be clean because the visual clutters at my mind. Okay, well, that makes sense. Why does it clutter up my mind? Well, I already have all these other things that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about my boyfriend or my girlfriend. I'm thinking about my friends. I'm thinking about my aunt who's sick. I have, I'm worried about my bills. You're like, okay, so, and now I observe I have all of these things on my mind. Okay. Why else does it annoy me? Well, I don't like doing dishes. And so I'm like, okay, so I don't like doing dishes. Why don't I like doing dishes? Well, I don't like the sensory experience of touching all the food. You're like, okay, so then maybe you can learn something about yourself. Well, I don't like the sensory experience of touching the food and the water. So then maybe I could wear gloves. Okay, maybe I could, and that could help me, right? Or maybe like, I don't like the dishes because they're not my dishes, they're my roommates. Oh, okay. So this is about your roommate. Okay, so why don't you like the dishes in the sink? Well, they've been there for 2 days and it makes me feel like they don't care about our living space. And also they don't do any of the other chores. Oh, okay. So it's not really about the dishes, is it? It's because it's symptomatic of a bigger problem, of them not taking the time and the energy to upkeep this place. And why does that bother you? Why does it bother you that they don't take the time to do that? Well, I live here too, and if they don't do it, then I have to do it. Okay, so now we've got some boundary issues, because now if they don't do it, you feel obligated to do it to clean your space. So now something needs to change there. There needs to be some kind of communication about, living in the space together and what the shared responsibilities will happen. And so then, all of a sudden you're into action steps. You're already into brainstorming ways that you can accommodate yourself, where you can change your thoughts, change your perspective, like getting gloves. If it's your dishes and you want to do it, getting gloves. Or, like, I don't want to have it on my mind all the time. So then maybe scheduling a time to do it. And then all of a sudden, like, you don't have the problem with the dishes, and that's not, on your head. And so frees up mental space, frees up emotional space. So then you can be more present. And now you have more capacity to do things you love, like, your hobbies. So, that's just an example. And then you go about your day, blah, blah, blah. And, let's say you work customer service and you have a customer who comes in and they're so angry and they're like yelling at you and just being like so angry, and you're like, why do I have to deal with this person? Why? I hate my job. I hate having to do this. Their anger makes me angry. So then, okay, well, let's think about that. Just notice it. Like, I don't like dealing with this person. It makes me angry. Okay, well, let's think about it. Well, maybe I should consider, changing jobs. Is this the job where I want to be? Well, maybe that can be a goal that I can set for myself. Why does their anger make me angry? Well, because they're, yelling at me and I want to defend myself. And all of a sudden, now that I'm thinking about that, I'm remembering how my mom used to yell at me or my dad used to yell at me. And it puts me back in that same space. And see, all of a sudden, now you've uncovered a childhood wound. And now you're doing shadow work because you're remembering it. And you're like, wow, that still affects me today. And so you can work on healing that. Right? And so that's what I said. Like, it's always presence. It's always noticing. It's noticing and letting your thoughts and your emotions out, letting them come to the forefront and acknowledging them, because it's when they're ignored, it's when they're pushed down that they fester, right? They push down so that, they're going to stay there. They're going to make their home in your body and your mind. And the more, and it comes up, and then you're like, no, get down there. And so now there's another one, and it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger until it's taking up so much space in your mind and your body. And so, it's just recognizing that and then facing it. So then you're not adding to it. So it's really two things. It's like, one, moving forward from a place where you take the time to recognize what's going on, your emotions that come up. And I do feel like a lot of it is emotions. It's really recognizing, what's triggering me, and then meeting it where it's at, expressing it in a healthy way through journaling, through moving your body, like running or, walking and pacing. I love pacing. Dancing. Could also be like journaling or making art. Like, there are many different ways that you can use to externalize it, but sitting with it, expressing it, and then saying, okay, what is this telling me? Because your emotions are telling you something about yourself and about your environment, so that you can make changes in how you talk to yourself and into your environment. Because, we're supposed to, and we want to, like, our drive is to make a life that feels good, that feels resonant in our soul. So on one hand, it's, meeting every single day, like from where you are going forward, meeting every day where it's at, experiencing your emotions, recognizing them and what they're trying to tell you. Okay? Because they're always trying to tell you something, that something feels really good and we want to pursue this even more, or this doesn't feel good and I don't want to pursue this anymore. So listening to that, getting the message, and then saying, okay, what are my options for in the future moving forward? Like, when this situation arises again, how can I integrate these things that I've learned about myself to then have a better outcome, right? And some of that is just inner work, completely inner. It doesn't have anything to do with the outer world, but some of it is outer world. Like, for example, like talking with your roommate about the dishes, having an honest heart to heart where you say, it really encumbers me to live in a dirty space. It takes up space in my mind. It makes me feel frazzled. And so I want to work together to, clean our space and keep it organized so that we can both live our best lives, because I also feel like it's probably not helping you either. And it causes friction in our relationship, and I don't want that, because I want to meet you as a friend, as, my fellow human being cohabitating, right? I want us to have a good relationship, and these silly external things like the dishes and the vacuuming and things like that, they're getting in the way, and I don't want that, So it's things like that, like moving forward from a place. And then also, as you move forward, the shadow work about your past will naturally come up because everything's connected. The reason that you're triggered, the reason that these outside circumstances elicit emotional responses is because it's rooted in some response you had as a kid. Because when you're born, or like in your past, because when we're born, we're blank slates. We are completely connected to spirit. We're completely connected to the universe. And we do have, like, I think we have some kind of generational things, but you know, we have that childhood whimsy. If you've ever met a child, they're so open, they're so whimsical, they're so like, they say whatever the fuck they want to say. And they also like love their friends, and they're like, I want to marry my friends, and I want to, you know, like they just love to play and have fun. And so like that's where we are. And then as we grow up and, you know, we experience things, we experience contrast, maybe generational trauma, people projecting their own unhealed wounds that they haven't examined on us. And that's where we kind of build these insecurities, we build these triggers. And like I said, it's scaffolding around the heart. It's not there, it's rickety, it's man-made, right? And so it's our work to, you know, dismantle it, and it will come up naturally. And so you don't have to dig up things, you know, completely directionless. You're like, I don't know where to start, you know, whatever. They will come up naturally, and just meet them where they are. And here's the other thing, they'll come up right when you need to work on them, and when you're in the space to work on them, because your body and your mind knows exactly what you're capable of. They know, it's like an intrinsic knowing that is in biology, like in our cells, knows when we can handle things, when we are safe enough to remember that memory or to look at that dynamic that was happening, you know? So it's really just the first step is just going about your day, being present, okay? Recognizing what is happening in your body when you have an emotion. And you don't even have to identify the emotion, right? Because I'm autistic, and sometimes I have a really difficult time identifying my emotions. I can feel them in my body or in my head, and I'm like, this makes me feel kind of weird, but I can't name it in the moment. So I'm like, it's okay, just clock that for later. And then when I'm home, you know, I'm in my safe space, I'm in my jammy jams, I'm in my bed with my dog who's cuddled up next to me. I got my favorite show on, or like my favorite music on, and I pull my journal. I'm like, okay, well, let's think about it a little bit. You know, what was that emotion? Let's recall that memory and feel that emotion. Where is it in my body? Does that align with the chakra center? Does it align with maybe other emotions that I feel? Like I feel anxiety a lot in my stomach and in my heart. So it's like, is it in there? Does it feel like that? Or does it feel like something else? Does it feel like something new? Do I want more of it? Do I want less of it? You know, do I want to chase it, or do I want to do my best to dissolve it, right? But it's the same process. It's always the same process of looking at it. And here's the thing, like I feel like, you know, it can be really scary to do shadow work, to look inward, to confront your emotions, especially. And I'm getting choked up right now because I'm like, it is scary. And I'm just reminded of like how many times I was just sitting like with my journal just crying, and it wasn't and here's the thing though, it wasn't a bad cry. It was a really, really good cry. You know, I was letting myself feel those emotions for the first time in my life, like fully, you know, really looking at myself. Like I had so much childhood trauma, so much like just feeling alone, and still like I'm still working through it. That's why I'm getting emotional now, because I've done so much work to, you know, move on from that, but it is still something that I'm working on. And I don't think that the journey really ever ends. I feel like, you know, when the universe will present us like new opportunities, like it'll be like one level up. We'll be like, okay, well, I did it last time where I got rid of or dissolved my childhood trauma, but here's one level harder. And it gets easier the more you do it, but it is like, you know, just advancing. And so, you know, it's like looking at it and letting yourself cry, letting yourself scream and be angry, you know, always healthily, always make sure that you are putting yourself in a safe environment where there's not going to be people who, you know, overreact, or, you know, if you are prone to like, you know, throwing things or something like that, like maybe doing it outside in like a field and you can pick up rocks and throw them. You know, it's like putting yourself in a place where you can do it healthily, you know, not lashing out at people and things like that. Yeah, and it's really is just looking at yourself, reflecting on your experiences day to day, and saying, you know, I see you. I'm going to make an effort to, and to yourself, like I see myself and I'm going to make an effort to grow this relationship with yourself, because what it is building a relationship with yourself, with your own mind and your own body. And that means meeting you where you're at, meeting yourself where you're at, and just, you know, spending time with yourself and sitting there with yourself through the emotions, through the anger, through the sadness, through the love, and through the joy, and saying, I see you and I recognize you feeling this emotion, and I will stay here with you while you feel it. And then through that process, you build trust with yourself, you build security within yourself, and it happens naturally. It happens incredibly naturally because, you know, you start taking every day by day and really looking at yourself, and then you kind of become your own companion. You become your own best friend because you're like, I'm always there for myself, to listen to my own problems, to express my emotions to myself, to, you know, do things with myself. And it becomes a really beautiful, it's like, it really is a love story. It's a love story with yourself. And that is the entire spiritual journey, is a love story with yourself. And then you get to a point where it expands to other people, because you realize that yourself is also everybody else around you. And that's definitely later on in the path. I think that the first part is definitely meeting yourself where you're at. But that's where I'm going to end the video. I hope this was helpful. I love you. Good luck on your spiritual journey. You got this. Bye.